call the meeting to order. If everyone will please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag back there. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The school board will convene to executive session tonight to consider the employment compensation performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the school board has jurisdiction under Wisconsin statutes 19.85 for 1 parent C. I add with that. We have a presentation tonight from Mr. Carlson in the agricultural department.
All right, a couple things about our agriculture program, which was started a few years ago. Basically, we set it up so that we followed the career pathways. And we have 2 classes that are offered in the animal science, 3 in the natural resources, and 4 in the plant science. When I came here, we were heavy into the animal parts of it. We transferred it over as we started to see the farmers changing over and seeing more landscaping, more of the horticulture fields in here. It also helped the fact that we had evergreen nursery in the areas and we had the experiment station, made that transition really easy. So, other classes that I offer besides these, I teach 11 subjects in there. The Ag Business, which is the 8th grade intro class, and then I also teach a small engines class as well. In the Ag Business class, this is for the 8th graders. Hands-on, a lot of intro stuff for the agriculture. Teach the kids about the 8 career areas that are out there related to agriculture. We try to do projects and stuff. This one was one that we did in class that was, they had studied soils, and what we did was we turned around and then had them build the soil. And how did we make them build the soil? As many candy pieces as I could bring, with pudding and ice cream, and they had to build the different levels. So far, we're intact, with most of them being sick before they get to the bus. The second class that I teach, and they're in alphabetical order, is that small engines. This is related to those things that are breaking down an engine for things like feed mills and things like that. The kids get a dose of what the difference between 2- and 4-stroke engines are, plus diesel engines. Then once we get that learned as far as the parts and the stuff that we do, then we bring in engines. We have our engines in here so the kids get an engine to break down and tear it apart and put it back together. And right now we're heavy into that, and we got nobody that started their engine yet. So once they get that, then they can bring in an engine if they want from home. If not, we have other engines that they can tear down. So, animal science is the one that I'd like to see this one added as a science credit because this one talks a lot about breeding aspect, the management practices, those things very similar to what you see in biology. And the kids that usually take the animal science and vet science classes really do well in the biology and the anatomy classes because we have taught it in animal science. This is mainly for 9th graders, but in the past years we've been getting seniors all the way down to 9th graders, which helps the class because the seniors are more mature and those 9th graders have a better understanding with the health of those kids. And each of the areas that we do, these are the units that we cover in there for animal science, and then as you can see, those are the things that are covered in each of those areas. So we cover pretty much the same thing throughout those standard animal science class. If you took this in college, you'd be doing the same thing. The only thing you don't see on there is the poultry. That's not a high subject for me. I raised them too many years and I don't like them. Floral design is a class that we teach. Usually it is taught every other year. We do projects in there. A lot of things depend upon, this sounds morbid, but a lot of depends upon the funeral home. And the reason is because I have worked to deal with the funeral home that when we have the class, when they need flowers that they have no place to take, they call me up, I bring them in here, the kids then tear them apart, and we put them back together. And then I usually get a couple kids to help me after school. We take them down to the nursing homes, so they get them down to the nursing home. The reason why we do that is because actually my grandfather is the one that got me into it, because he was in a nursing home for 10 years. And every time that there was a flower arrangement that came in, everybody in the nursing home knew somebody died. So what we do is we tear them apart, put them back together in a smaller arrangement. They just think that's fantastic because they have no correlation to that in the funeral. As you can see, some of the pictures that we do, we also try and do, I think, one of the, Emma up there, Emma Olson in the top left, she's holding a corsage that we made for the basketball parents' night. So we try and make things that also can be used in other places as well. And then, again, there's the subjects that I teach or the units that we teach in each of those areas. Forestry, a lot of hands-on stuff. These guys are working on leaf identification right now. We'd like it to break and get the buds out so we can see some leaves here pretty quick. Most of the time forestry is in the fall, but every once in a while it works out in the schedule to put it in the spring. So we gotta rotate some of the stuff, but they learn how to use all the equipment like a forester, cruising stick, Biltmore stick. They learn how to use the clinometer, a few other things that we do. And then what the final project is, they have to go out and build an orienteering course around the school. And they test it by handing it over to the wildlife class, and they have to follow the description.
Have you thought about establishing an herbarium with specimens that are collected? Do we have any way of maintaining that?
Okay,
herbarium? I mean, you know, when you collect specimens and teach them how to prepare them for identification.
Oh, you mean for the trees and stuff?
Yeah, for identifying plants. I mean.
Taxonomy, you mean?
Plant taxonomy.
Yeah. We do a unit in taxonomy before we get them out there.
We don't have active herbarium selection.
No, I don't. But we do teach the taxonomy, and I teach it in both the horticulture, the forestry, because I think it's important. Even though we don't teach it in animal science, they get that in biology when they start that one. So, books, the horticulture class, then we do on the left-hand side, that's my curriculum. On the right-hand side, those are the things that we do as far as activities. Growing plants, we are doing the tower gardens out there. We do the ebb and flow in our greenhouse. Had a difficult time this first part of the year because we couldn't get the temperature to stay on. We now have it working, and it's amazing how plants grow when they have nice warm weather out there. And we've got a full greenhouse now because of that, and it's thankful for the kids. My landscaping class decided that they wanted to be in the greenhouse, and I encouraged it because we want it all year. With the horticulture, it's easy, we can do that. But we had our tower gardens going. We supplied small little, those sweet cherries, the little small ones to the lunch program. When we got it going, I think we did it for about 3.5 weeks, and we had 12 to 14 tomatoes blooming at each of those days. So it was kind of fun to be able to do that. Our horticulture class also does some things with the poinsettias, as you can see up in the top right.
Dale? I noticed the article in the Press Gazette this week from Howard Swamical on hydroponics, and they are raising 8,000 pounds of lettuce, and they're using it in their cafeteria for salad. Is this something that we might look at in the future?
We are trying.
Okay.
We did it last year.
Yeah, we did it last year. We did it at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
We did get it going, but unfortunately lettuce likes that warmer weather.
Right.
And this year with the lettuce, we froze it out twice.
Oh, okay.
because the shutters all of a sudden decided to come open. So we had to go in and manually just shut everything down for the winter so that they wouldn't open up on us. But last year we were running that.
Okay.
I'd love to be able to. We've got some new ones started this year. We are hoping to get lettuce in the next couple of weeks to them. The kids tried some different types of lettuce this year.
Okay.
So,
And then we could use it in the cafeteria?
that's right.
They got the ESCO to use it last year too.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what we did with our tomatoes too.
Okay, great.
They're growing basil. We did do basil for a while and a few other cilantro. And we did a few of those things at the fall of the year, but when I lost my horticulture class, the interest in the basil just, the other kids didn't know what it was, so they didn't want to grow it, so.
So is that corrected now? The shutters went shut and.
Yeah.
So that's corrected now?
Sort of. It is corrected, but I'm doing it manually.
Oh,
So that I'm coming in and making sure that when it gets hot, the shutters and stuff are all open. When it's cloudy and it's like what we had today, I shut all the shutters so that it doesn't, there's one of them that trips for whatever reason and opens up. And I've called the company and they say that all the figures are right and stuff, so it's frustrating, but it is, we are making it work, let's put it that way. And I hope, and Ron Amos said that he's gonna come over and try and help me get it going, so that we don't have to worry about those shutters coming up again, so. Yeah, and when he said, when we get our stuff out, he says, I'll come over a little bit later.
I would think the animal classes would be good classes for kids who want to think about going into pre-vet.
Oh, yes, we do. We offer a vet class that's coming up. We do a vet class which the kids learn the anatomy, learn the systems. We do a lot of things with directions and stuff like that. Oops. Vet science, that's class. They do 2 surgeries in what I call surgery. I could tell the kids we're doing 2 surgeries. The first one they do is on gummy bears and gummy worms, where they have to take and do the directions such as anterior, posterior, caudal, dorsal fins, all of that stuff. And then the second one, we just got done this last Monday and Tuesday, we dissected pigs. So we do very similar to what biology does, they dissect the pigs. We learn the systems, and then what we do is we cut open the pigs to coincide for a science credit. So you see EC or ES on the pathway, which means that it's equivalent to a science credit, so half a credit. But yes, we do. Then we go in after getting done with the systems, and what we do is we do a pet care unit, which that one is one of those things that could be very easily separated out from vet science, and we could spend the whole year or a whole semester on vet science just with the anatomy, because we don't get to the nervous system, we don't get to some of those other systems because we're trying to do the pet unit as well. So, okay. This one, I was surprised this year. My kids dove right in. They were mad scientists this year because they wanted to see the brain, they wanted to see all that stuff, and it's like, go for it. Well, can we really cut it? And it's funny because they all want to do it, and then all of a sudden the first one cuts in and there's juice that spurts out, and it's like, ah! I said, is everybody all right? Yeah, we just saw the juice. Okay. Going back here, turf management and landscaping in our class, we use a landscaping computer program. In the landscape nursery program, these are 2 houses. If you guys recognize the 2 houses, these are ones that we did in class. They were actual houses. This is one a couple of years ago we did, was the Sturgeon Bay High School class that built that house. My son was in that building construction class. And so the building construction, they put together the house, and then I talked to Meisners, who were the landscaper, and said, hey, can we come up with some drawings and some ideas? So we worked with Meisner Landscaping, and what they did was they planted or designed, each of them designed a software like this, and then we got to go out and plant it on one of the days. So principals and stuff let us do that. And right now we're working on this bottom one that's down here. in the bottom, and that's one that we're doing for this year, and that's one of the kids' plans that they put together. So, turf management, we do a lot with turf management with the different types of grasses and stuff. That's where we utilize the greenhouse again. The kids, one of the first weeks that we start the class, they have to go out and plant 5 different kinds of grasses. And then what we do is we raise the grasses, we get them to the point where their root systems are the same size as what you would have on a putting green or roughs or whatever they can grow the grass for. Then they come in with the scissors and they cut off all the blades and find out how fast they grow, things like that. Then their one project is on the bottom, as you see, they got to build a 9-hole golf course on the landscape program that we have. And as you're looking here, you see the flags that are in the foreground. You got the green on the right side, you got the left side of the fairway. That's their opening hole on what the students built this one. So, and they put together the trees and the slopes and all that stuff. So, and then the turf management, we also try and work in sporting activities such as lawns and stuff like that. We also cover all the pests and all the things that you need to know about how to make sure that you're not dampening them off, or when should you be watering and when you're not watering and stuff.
Do any of the Wisconsin colleges have golf maintenance programs?
Oh, Madison does.
Madison does.
Yeah. I don't know if River Falls still has it.
I don't know, but Madison has a turf grass experimental station, research station.
Yeah, they also, they go out to the golf course itself.
It's right, yeah, it's adjacent to, I can't remember the name of the golf course now, but it's at West Madison, on the West Madison side. They have a big turf science department.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's quite a few.
There's a lot of money there to go to get a job in with that.
Yeah. One of my kids went out to Arizona, got his degree out there. He was one of the golfers on the golf team and just fell in love with it and said, Mr. Carlson, where do I go? And I said, Madison is about your only choice here, but Minnesota has one too, that you could go over there. But he looked up and started researching, and he said, I like Arizona, it's nice and warm. So he made the move.
Smart move.
I agree. Let's see, I lost it here. Wildlife 1 and 2, we do 2 different separate classes. Wildlife 1 is the management and the animals that we use for sporting, such as hunting and stuff like that. But we look at it in depth. We don't just say hunting is the only management practice that we have out there. There are other things that we can do. Some of them are costly, some of them are not very effective. But we do look at how to manage them and what controls those populations. And we do also do a compass. That's where we test that forestry classes orienteering course that they had to build. We put the kids in the wildlife on that course, and they have to go around. This year what we did was, as on the right-hand side, the kids had to take and determine the number of steps and paces, but then they built the course going around the school rather than going outside, because we moved it from the fall to the spring, so we adjusted that. So, and the kids made 2 courses that they had. One was a simple one, going up and down, so that they learned how to read the compass, learn how to make distances and stuff like that. A lot of hands-on with this one, with where we measure the antlers for scoring during the hunting season. Kids will bring in the antlers and we'll score them for them. Wildlife 2 is a piggyback off that. We do a little bit more on the food chains, on what starts on the bottom. This is control for rodents and stuff. They're the #1 food supplier for predators, so we try and teach them what do they look like, how do we control them, those types of things. And we do a unit in taxidermy. As you can see in that picture there, you see those little blackbirds. Those are those wonderful little starlings that we have out there. I went to Mike Orthenberg when I first came here and said, hey, can we do a taxidermy unit? And he looked at me and said, what are you thinking about doing? And I said, pheasants. He said, nope, I won't do it. He says, if you want to do this, you're doing the starlings. He says, #1, you don't have to have a permit. #2, they're a nuisance. So he says, you can go out and shoot them. Any farmer is going to tell you, go ahead and shoot them. And so that's what we do, is we do the starlings instead of the big ones. The kids all say, well, I want to do a duck, I want to do, if you can do this bird first. And that's my goal, is to get them through that. And then we do a unit on trapping and regulations, and Mike or Mark Richard usually comes in and helps me with that trapping unit and shows the kids how to do it. And we finish up with birds of prey. I think that was my last one. Did I make it, Carl?
Oh, you're way off.
5 minutes? Any questions?
How many science credits now?
We have 2 that you can get, a half a credit each. One is vet science, one is animals, or vet science and horticulture.
Oh,
So, should we add more? I don't know. I mean, I don't think it'll hurt. I know when we first sat down and looked at it, we didn't want to have animal science because somebody was, or we talked about it with Margraf and stuff, that he was worried that it was going to be one of those things that could take away from his electives. But I think the kids that are going into his electives would have,
advanced biology.
yeah. I mean, so,
That's regular biology.
human anatomy, they do. I know
Oh, they
that.
do, right, yeah, okay.
I mean, but like I said, animal science could very easily be added because we do a lot more with the breeding in that class. Because the farmers have, that's their livelihood. You can't get your females bred, you're not going to have an industry. You're going out of business. Any other questions?
Bill, I have a project for you.
You know?
When we went to school board convention, we saw this table, it was like
Oh,
a cadaver laying here, right?
Okay. Human?
Human. But you could also have dogs and cats, there were different animals.
Okay.
And you could peel back the skin and see first you peel back the skin, then you could see like all the blood vessels and the arteries, and you could get down to the heart, and you could see everything.
See that right there? Those are pigs. That's what they're doing with the pigs. We start on the first part of that. What we do is we start by looking at external components of the pig. We look at the ears. Then I have the kids take off and cut the ears off on the outside. And the kids are surprised to see that there's no blood vessels going in there. Because all of these pigs that die that go in, they have the arteries in red and the veins are in blue. And then they go in and they start doing the cuttings, and then we take out all the organs out of them. They lay them on the table so that they can see where the pattern is. And then they start to put in the carotid arteries and the aortas and all that.
I think that's really important. I was thinking if you were grant for this, it would be enhancement to your program.
It's about $80,000. She's talking about.
Is that
I'm
right?
trying to get somebody to buy into that because I think it's so great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, just see it to appreciate it, right?
And then
You have to see it to appreciate
it also gives you text to go with each layer, so it's like, it is amazing,
Okay.
but it's $80,000, yeah.
I just thought you wanted
Be the
something.
first in the
Yeah,
county.
over the summer.
First in the county.
I would think if you had one for animals, it'd be more expensive because there's more systems.
So it all comes together.
The animals were.
Yeah, you just push the button, you
Oh,
go.
right, oh, yeah, that's all the human part, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean, I
like
haven't
three for
seen-
the price of one.
We have a company that's doing a lot of it, that is, you can do the same thing with artificial insemination, they do tests over restraining the animals and stuff. And they have kind of like rubberized material that they use, ear tagging, things like that, you could add to that for animal science. But then they do have one that is a heifer that's laid out, and you then can go in and remove those. Kind of like what the biology department does with their human one, those plastic type things that they've got. So,
Yeah, I think what this would do, how they could use it is that it would be whatever animal you have on the board. I think I'm assuming they have a whole bunch of different, let's say, whatever animal, the cat. So you have a cat on the board, and you're going through this before they get into the real cat, and then they go so far in the cat, then you go to the next chapter in the book. Now this is what you're going to see in the next one, and it's real, it's like being in as I remember being in an anatomy class. And it's like, looks like the real thing. And then you could show them that ahead of time, and they're going to do it.
can I still put that in my budget?
Sure.
First thing,
You can write it down. So if That was interesting. Thank you very much.
If you
Mr.
want one,
Carlson.
if you want one, you got 2 outlets for you, okay?
Okay, I'll come to you guys first.
Any other questions for Mr. Carlson?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did the guests want to speak? No, no guest comments. Does anyone have anything they wish to move from the consent agenda? If not, then we approve us to send with a donation to Jane Miller for donations of materials for the Gifted and Talented Art Program. A donation of $209 to Destination Imagination for Lala Lou. And to Drawbox State Farm, $500 for Destination Imagination. Does anybody have questions on the principal reports that maybe you want to direct to Mr. Lickey? If not,
I'm going to hold the floor.
you've got it.
I don't really have much to add this month. Just, I think I can speak for both Mr. Hiltz, Mr. Schaefer, and really the rest of the staff that, April is incredibly busy, and it doesn't seem like at times there's enough time left in the school year to get everything done. So we're all working real hard along with the students. But the one thing that is on my my docket this week is the final push to complete all forward testing. And that's kind of that's the test that our 3rd graders through 8th graders take. So there's a lot going on. And I'm right now multitasking and organizing that testing schedule for Friday. So hopefully we're going to have a really successful makeup day. And then next week is summer school rosters. So really just moving into some of the fun stuff that you can start thinking about for summer. But that's all I have to add tonight. If there's anyone who has any questions about my reports, happy to answer them.
Is your report about the ACT test results are back? Or?
They are not back yet, so
They're
we
not
look
back
daily yet. And the reason ours are not back yet is because one of our students was absent for the testing, and there's only specific windows where they can make up that test. The ACT is very specific. So I gave the test, the final ACT, oh my gosh.
It was last week.
Last week, because it's because the second window was when we were on spring break, so we had to wait to the 3rd window. But Melissa and Malcor and I are checking daily to see when we can report to the board and report to the students in our community with the results.
We'll do a press release with the result.
Yeah, we have a plan of what we want to do with the press release and recognition, but we have to wait.
Some of the students and families who took it on the first day received the scores at their house, but that doesn't mean we have them here at school. So you maybe heard of one really high score. We don't have that official yet. Right. But we'll take
There
care
are
of it.
rumors it's a high score.
What?
First thing, there are rumors it's a high score.
I think we got like 5 or 6 in the 30s or higher.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
That was
Yes.
nice.
Yeah, so we're waiting, and believe me, the minute that we get those results in, we're going to let everybody know.
Fantastic. Does anybody have questions they want to direct on the athletic director's or gifted and talented report? Not the superintendent's report?
School Perceptions has been in contact with me about the staff survey, which we do every spring. You remember they presented this last fall, and they revamped theirs, so it's a shorter version. At admin team yesterday, we reviewed the shortened version, and the dates picked out for in May for going to the staff, so that will be happening in May. I reached out to Door County Public Health because of masking. We've been going with a positive case, you're out 5 calendar days, then you return 5 days masked. And the response I got from Eric Krakowitz, who was the new, took over for Sue Powers over at Door County Medical Public Health. And he said, thank you for reaching out. The numbers here in Door County for COVID have been significantly lower over the last 3 months. In fact, even some of our medical facilities have dropped masking mandates. Whatever your leadership decides, we find from the perception of the public health authority. With the current school year coming to a close, I don't feel it would be a bad decision either way based on how low our numbers are here in the county. If any changes drastically over the next few weeks and during the summer, I'll contact you with that information. So we're getting better with COVID and masking, so it's good. So we're doing 5 and 5 right now, so I may adjust that down so that the kids and staff don't miss so much school.
You know, when I volunteered today, I noticed the cancer center now has optional masking.
The cancer part?
Cancer, the cancer center. And that'd be the area that they're going on forever, they've gone forever because they're being compromised patients, but it's not, that's run by St. Vincent's, but the Dorian says, asking it's not.
Anything else from?
COVID and the staff survey, that's good.
I bring this to you not for discussion tonight, but to ask if you feel we need to discuss it in the future. Last month, we had a speaker who expressed an opinion that the article in the Peninsula Pulse titled Social Emotional Learning Comes to Sevastopol was concerning to him. I reread that article, and it was really tied to the Character Strong program, I thought, that we had a presentation here by Mr. Schaefer, a month before maybe. But the speaker's comments were, he ties the social emotional learning to the critical race theory. He's disturbed by the use of the word equity as it may be applied to race and gender dysphoria. And he thinks social emotional learning is teaching kids a bad ideology. He suggested that the school board look deeper into social emotional learning because in his opinion it came from a dark place. He suggests that we brought something into the school that is not good for all kids, and again suggests that we may not understand how dark this is. I think maybe he doesn't understand what the goal of that is. So, does the school board want to discuss it? Does the school board want to discuss it further at a future meeting? Do you think we need to reach out to this gentleman to further explain really what that Character Strong program is, or let it lie? That's why I bring it forward.
He's coming tomorrow at 2:30 for a tour of the school, and then I'll talk to him.
Oh, great.
But he is going to talk about that.
No, I mean, he basically, presented his opinion, and
His opinion was so strong. and
it's a
made-
public, but it's a public, more or less, forum for him. And we're here to listen, and,
and I just
yeah.
I think Lisa's
that
question
we
is,
have listened, he's making a suggestion to us, but we feel that we have a good handle on what is being taught in Sevastopol under this Character Strong program.
And I think the same, I think some of the same thoughts existed during the COVID period as well. And I think those are a lot of misconceptions, I don't want to say misconceived, but I think misconceptions during that period. We listened to people's opinions. We didn't question them. We didn't debate them. We simply listened.
This is a little stronger thing because it's so social, but I think it's good if Mr. Linke's going to talk to him and explain the Character Strong program. It will let him know that we've heard his concern and took it into consideration.
I think let's see what happens with that and let it go until we see that.
I think the question isn't about that. The question is, do we fully understand the terminology that's out there? Because I didn't think anything about it, blah, blah, blah. And then I read we're going to talk about tonight, access to the library collection, and lo and behold, one of the goals is for the social, emotional support. So here it comes again, so I went online and I Googled that term.
Social emotional learning.
That's right, social emotional learning. And this first couple pages, as Google does, the history of it will give you what it wants you to see in the first, and you got to go a few more pages and you get rid. And there's articles after article after article written about how this isn't all what it's cracked up to be. And my question is, do we as a board really understand the dynamics about this whole movement? There's a movement. It's just not nice words. If you look in the what's going on in the United States, and then we can say we're not worried about it. The disruption in school boards, which is now big all across the United States, is going because of these type of issues. And I'm not taking a position yay or nay, I'm just taking a position, do we really understand the dynamics out there and all this stuff? And what, I think what Lisa's saying, do we want to learn more about this before it pops up in our school board? I mean, it sounds nice, the words are nice, but what's the meanings behind it all?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Yeah, so that means there is controversy out there.
Sure.
Yeah, and so I think we need to be aware of what the controversy is. I think we need to know what the pros of it are, and I think we should be aware of what the negatives of it are, and then we can make our own judgments. That's all I'm saying. I'm just thinking as an educational point of view, we should probably have someone talk to us. I don't know if anybody out there can talk to us about what the pros and the cons are, but it's a big issue, and it will eventually hit us just like other things will hit us. And we should just be aware of it and understand what the terminology is.
That's the question. It's like reading the article. Who do you get to talk to?
Yeah, because when I think
the
of
articles.
social, emotional learning, I figure we're providing a safe environment for the kids and getting the services they need. That's basically what it is to me. But other people take the extreme of one thing. Our softball team tonight had indoor practice, so they meditated, right? They thought about how they hit the ball, field the ball, okay? Someone else might say, well, gee, you're pushing religious there. You know, yoga has a religious basis, and you're pushing there socially, emotionally, that way. Well, that's not what the coach is doing. She's trying to visualize that you're going to hit the ball, you're going to field the ball. But someone says, well, you're kind of going in that psychic world and what you're thinking, and so it gets off on a tangent if you let it go there. That's not what our coach is doing. She's saying, okay, visualize hitting the ball, visualize fielding it, because they had indoor practice, and what do you do with it? I mean, there's a lot of rain, right? So what do, you know? But that's not what's going on. You know, some people know you're controlling their minds. No, she's trying to prep them for playing correctly, you
We
know?
need to focus on what we're doing as a district.
Right, so we do what we...
And not deal with all the noise out there.
Right. But what Jerry's saying is someday the noise is going to come here. And you saw what happened with the youth in Chicago last weekend, right? They took over the city, or part of the city. Ooh, you know, that probably not going to happen here in 6 Group, but, you know.
We need to tell our story.
Right. So people have questions what we're doing, we show them the curriculum, show them what we're teaching, and say, there it is.
So along with telling our story, the other thing I just wanted to bring forward was, if you didn't read it online or someplace, there was a large drop in the approval of operational referenda in the spring election. I don't have the numbers and the figures, but it was
It's about 50%.
I do have
it
those
was
numbers.
significant. And I bring that forward because we've got a year and a half to go, but we need to continue strongly telling all of the good things that happen here, and somehow working in how the state education budget affects us in terms of things like reimbursement for special education and some of those other points that we focused on
We
a few
can't
weeks
offer
ago.
all the great programs we offer without the financing, which we're dependent on local
So
referendum.
that's not this group's job, that's a communication job, but it's just a point I didn't bring
Yeah,
I
forward.
think we need Carl to give a presentation.
This spring's election saw the lowest passage rate for school district referendums statewide in over a decade. And I have all of the numbers if anyone wants them.
I do last week, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Usually Baird sends us a report, but I haven't, Carl, you haven't got one from Baird, have you? I usually have a nice breakdown for us, but I haven't seen it yet.
Well, I guess we make what we just talked about, though. I think we need to be knowledgeable of what's going on out there, because the public is getting a poorer and poorer impression, not necessarily in Sevastopol, but we need to know about it. Poorer and poorer impression about what's going on with public education.
Yeah, we could talk
The stereotype is you're more worried about everybody getting along than about them learning how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And there's a whole big contingency out there saying, forget learning how to be nice to each other. That's what we do at home. Your job is to teach, multiply. And we're going to get into this topic, I think, later when we talk about books. But I'm just trying to say, don't put our heads in the sand. We should be knowledgeable about what's going on out there. And maybe we don't. You guys must be talking about this as superintendents.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're going to pick the best job we can, and I guess I'm going to say middle of the road. You don't want to go extreme either way,
Right.
Yeah, unless that's how your community feels. But our community is not going to go extreme one way or the other. I don't believe we didn't during COVID. We had a few people on each end of the masking issue, but the vast majority were in the middle. So that's we represent and do what the folks around here want. I think we are. And if someone comes in with a question, we'll show them our curriculum, we'll show them what we do.
But I think that the expansion to the person who spoke last week, he's a knowledgeable guy. I mean, he runs a successful business. He lives on the street. I don't know him that well, but he's not a crackpot. He more or less said to us, be careful.
Right, he's there, yeah, right.
And I just take it back, like, be careful, what did we do? And then, so, from his view, was different from our view. And I just think we need to be more knowledgeable about all the views out there.
I think we would be knowledgeable about all the views out there, and each of us, however we can, be knowledgeable about be connected to the school and what's happening in the school. Not walking down the halls checking on every classroom every month, but understanding the things that are happening in school, and if we identify something that we think is going the wrong way, bring it to the superintendent.
I think we have to rely upon our professional staff, the staff that we have here at school, to provide guidance for us in these issues, and not make it a political or whatever, philosophical issue.
So those were the two things I was bringing forward. I wasn't at the 100th anniversary committee meeting, but do you want to report on the slogan logo?
Sure, we have a slogan and a logo. We did a press release earlier this week, and it was, I want to quote it correctly.
There's Sevastopol. Proud of our past, focused on our
future. Yeah.
Part of our past, focused on our
future. That's the logo. I'm going to send out to my private line and the whole staff this week. It should be on our website now. Yes. All right, it is. And we did a press release on it, so that's good. And we'll actually start using it officially July 1, because that's the 100th year then. And July 1, we start our 100th year.
Yeah, it was in the, where we get on Saturdays.
Oh, maybe it was, I don't know.
Yeah, that's where I read it was. Yeah.
We sent it out on Monday, so I just saw it Saturday.
It came in an email. I think.
That came from someplace.
Yes,
that's where it came from.
Yeah, sure, he sent it out. Yep.
Couldn't find it.
Well, that was identifying that was the first goal of the.
We had 70 entries to go over that.
That's what it said. That's what it was.
So the 9 of us sat around, and that one that won was on everybody's top 3 list. We did pick out the top 3, and that one rose right to the top.
So now that that's decided, the committee will start meeting on other topics and we'll report back to you. Anything on the budget that you want to discuss, report?
A couple items. You can see ESSER 2 has been closed out, so Carl's done all those claims, which means we'll be on to ESSER 3. And then you see the Fund 10 budget spent for 3 months left at 54.17%, 64.6% for this year. So we're doing good pace there. Fund 46 is down to 147,000, which is how the spend should be. And then this weekend, Katrina got a bid for a bus. If we order it by May 14th, it would come hopefully September, October. And and a bus, and I bring this up because the bus is $124,735, and just like 4 or 5 years ago, they were $85,000, so the cost of buses have gone up. Good news is he got a quote from both, what's that? International, thank you, and Bluebird, because last year Bluebird was so backed up they wouldn't even give us a bid. And this time around, he'd like to go with a gas bus rather than diesel. It'd be the only gas one we have in our fleet. And the cost between gas and diesel, the bus is exactly the same price. So I'll be moving on this, setting it up, because if we don't order it now, we won't get it for next year. So that'll be part of next year's budget, but it's $124,735. And those are things when you talk about the referendum and needing funds. The bus goes from $85,000 to $124,735 in a 5-year period. Holy cow. And we have to, basically have to get one bus a year because we have 9 routes and then we have 3 backup buses. And so by the time you get to the last one, you're replacing a 12-year-old bus. So we got to keep doing it. So, yeah. Kind of scary, the pricing like that.
Anything else on the budget?
Anything else, Carl? Esther's closed out for Esther 2.
Well, this is for April now, but we got our payment for our lottery credit from each of, well, it comes in one check, but from the municipalities, the lottery credit that you get from the state. That goes, it's not on that one, but it's in, we got it in April, so it won't be on that.
Right, or was it, compared to what we estimated to be, was it higher or lower?
Well, it goes right in your tax levy.
Okay.
Yeah. It's $175,000 in it.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else there, facilities?
The well by the concession stand, the motor failed, so it was under warranty, so we got a new one. But that caused the water, we went to the track meet last night, the water out there had a little brown look to it for a little bit, but it's fine. It's drinkable, it's all good, and after it ran for a while, it's up and good. It's not as good as still under warranty, so that's good. And at the end of the day, like I said, we're going to drones for sometime next couple of weeks.
Okay. I don't think you really have anything under board goals, but I'll just mention this. Teacher appreciation week is May 1st, 6th,
First or fifth, Monday to Friday.
5th. Board went
The admin team has already made a purchase on your behalf, a water bottle for the
to,
staff.
oh, great.
And then Mr. Schaefer, Mr. Hiltz, Mrs. Bargraff, and myself are each going to take one day and bring in some sort of treats for the staff. And if the board wanted to take the 5th day, that might be one recommendation. We're doing healthy treats, candy, ice
Donuts.
cream, and donuts. Yeah, those are our 4.
What are they, healthy?
Healthy, yeah, that's Mrs. Bargraff. Yeah,
Donuts?
donuts,
Donuts one day,
candy, and
Ice
ice
candy
cream.
bar, and then ice cream
Yeah.
bar. They really, yeah, the staff, and I'm not saying it, they loved that Skatoros. When we recognized them, they just thought that was out of this world. And I'm not saying that you have to repeat that. All I'm saying is they were blown away by that.
By what?
But when we did the school board thanked the teachers for a good report card. We were all in here, we had a banner, and it was in here just this past year.
Yeah.
We served it.
You served
We
it.
served
They
it
loved
like
it.
no
All I'm
other,
saying
yeah.
is they loved it. There were so many compliments. So,
Okay, did our kitchen?
no, we ordered.
Skatoros did that.
Skatoros did it.
I ate it, I didn't serve it.
You know how much that cost?
It wasn't cheap.
That's, yeah, it wasn't, but, yeah.
They used to be cheaper, but
As everything else is going up.
it could probably be like $12 per person.
So they made a purchase on our behalf of water bottles.
Mm-hmm.
I can arrange a series of of Facebook posts with Stephen.
Yeah.
Acknowledging
We
this.
do have 4 days of food cover. I mean donuts and candy and healthy snacks. Yeah.
Healthy snack.
What did you say about water bottle?
water
We
bottles.
bought water bottles for all staff members.
But what goes on there?
What?
Yeah, what goes on?
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't play no water bucket.
No, that just,
Wow.
no, that's not like this year, you know.
Well, we'll let it lie and
Okay.
reach out to the staff and say thank you. This item I brought again just for the board to consider, not that we're going to be able to do anything or decide tonight, it's just a topic that we might want to discuss. I read in Mrs. Margraff's report that, she's looking closely at budgets to make sure that all the dollars we spend are to the best advantage of the students. And I think that when we spend, the school board spends money on programs and things, we want that too. So Wisconsin Association of School Boards is probably the place we spend the most money on things like for educational benefits for the school board, such as the annual conference. There are 1 and 2 day events school board members can go to. There are daily webinars on the website. There are a ton of free webinars on the website if you want to go and learn about anything. There's a lot of free webinars out there. My thought on this is, when we go to these things, I'm thinking just right now of the annual convention. We go to different sessions. How much do we bring back that really is of value to the school and the students here? The annual convention, for instance, in the wisdom of Wisconsin and how they do accounting, Carl can't tell me this is how much the annual convention costs for the school board because travel is under one thing, meals and entertainment are under another thing, registration is on another thing, so I don't know how much it costs, but it could cost thousands of dollars, hotel rooms. Should we look at those schedules as a board the month before and say, these topics should really be of interest to Sevastopol, and we would like our representatives to go to these topics, rather than something that might just be of interest to us, but really not helpful to us as a board or to the school. So we get I'm talking about getting the most value out of these things when we go to them. If it's a 1 or 2 day conference on, what do they have, on legal matters, should we send somebody to that? Is that going to be useful to us as a school board and to the school district beyond what the superintendent is already doing, maybe with the school attorney? If it's a conference on governance and leadership, if one person goes, should a couple of people go? And when we go to those, should we bring a report back of something that the school board can use? So my reason for bringing it forward is just to put that in your minds and think about if we want to talk about it in the future, having a further discussion of getting the most value out of spending those dollars. So I'll leave it at that.
Do you approximate how much dollars we spend?
I would say $2,000 would probably be a pretty close approximation.
And how much do we have?
For the school board convention.
For school board convention.
Per member?
Per member.
No, I would say per member, I'd say total.
Well, hotel rooms are $200-300 a night.
For
And if
what,
we're down
3
there for-
nights? Yeah. I wouldn't say it's 2,000 person, probably 1,000. I don't know how many people went, but probably 1,000 person.
I'd say
week.
that's like
So that's, you can ponder on that. Next, we have the policy on the book selection committee.
Sure, with policy 2522, instructional material centers, and admin team met with Ms. Bauer, our librarian, and we recommended changes for the policy. During the review process, the materials in question be removed from the library until the review is completed. The rationale is it was determined that the materials should be permanently removed from the library if the content is not available for exposure to students during the review process, It was determined that the material should remain in the collection. The only shortcoming is the students didn't have access and had to wait for access during the review period. And sometimes that happens anyways. If we have a book and Jeff checks it out, and I want to read it, I can't read it anyway, so he returns it 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, and then I get it. So there's already sometimes a delay for a student to have access. So we thought that was the best way of doing that during the review process. And then we want to adjust the members of reconsideration committee, tell the building level administrator, so it was elementary, it'd be Mr. Hiltz, it was middle school, high school, it'd be Mr. Schaefer, 2 teachers, 1 from each level, and then a parent selected at random from those who volunteered, and Ms. Powers has a letter in there where the parent says, yes, I'd be willing to serve if a committee was needed. And at that time, we'd have everyone, all the parents' names who said they'd be willing to serve, put them in a hat and pull one out, and that'd be who you'd have. And student council president, and of course the librarian on there. So that's our recommended changes.
So this is who you have in the committee if a parent complained about a book?
If some material, yeah, it could be a book, could be something else, they say, hey, this is controversial, we pull it, get the committee together, they review it and give a recommendation, and then you guys will move forward on the recommendation.
I would move to approve the recommended changes for policy 2522.
Second.
I recommend we remove the school librarian, since that's the person who selected the book in the first place. Why are you going to have them on the review committee to see if it's appropriate?
Because that's a professional.
No, they are, no, they're the ones who caused it. They're the ones.
Okay. We have professional staff here.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's a professional, she's trained professionally, we pay her as a professional librarian.
But she's in conflict of interest.
Well,
It's not a conflict of interest.
No,
She's
I would like her on
performing
the
job.
committee because then she could give us the rationale for why she selected it and how
Absolutely.
She could be there as an ad hoc member giving her opinion, but I don't think that person should be in the recommending stage, since that's the person, I mean, that's like bringing a physician in now. The patient complains about the physician, so the physician comes in and votes on whether or not he screwed up the patient.
So you would like the librarian on the committee but not a board member?
As a ad hoc.
I would disagree.
I disagree.
I think the librarian needs to be, that's her job,
That's
it's his
so
job.
give her a vote.
I think she should, I definitely think she should be on the committee because you want her
Input.
input.
We're gonna have to go ask her questions anyways.
Right, yeah, she should be there as an ad hoc member, not as a decision-making person. Because somebody's questioning her judgment.
I don't think they're questioning her judgment.
Well, she's the one who selected the book.
Well, there's also all sorts of professional associations that select the
I mean,
book.
those books are on a recommended list
Yeah.
based off these other professions anyway. Right?
Yeah,
Okay. Then we should never have any controversy.
Well,
As long as we
I think the controversy comes, I think they're on a list, you know, they're recommended by whoever those lists are. The controversy comes when different things are acceptable in different areas. Different things are acceptable on the East Coast or in California and on Rodeo Drive than they are in Institute, Wisconsin. And that's where the controversy
Things
comes
in
in.
Door County are different than they are in Madison compared to
Right.
Webb Lake, Wisconsin compared to Union Grove. I mean, yeah.
well, you still have all these other people, and we have to keep in mind that parents have the right to decide what their children read, but not what somebody else's children read.
Correct.
But the other parents don't really know their kids are reading.
Well, that's.
And I guess the other thing would be, there's would be 6 people on that, so you could have a tie.
Right, that's it. I just don't think if there's a controversy, if there's an issue coming against, it's like if someone brings a grievance against the superintendent's on the committee and votes on the grievance. You can do that. He's an
That's
expert.
a personnel issue.
Yes,
What we're
that's
talking about
different.
is content.
This is a-
Talking about
This is
content.
not a personnel issue.
This is a highly charged issue.
It's
ladies.
not a personnel issue, Jerry. You're confusing these whole thing.
No, I'm
Would you
not.
want to add a second parent so it's an odd number?
I would suggest, I would go with adding a second parent. If you're gonna leave the school librarian.
Okay. You guys discuss it, it's your
Well,
policy.
then you're gonna do that.
So what is the suggestion?
Second parent.
The second parent to have an odd out on them.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Well, when we were in Milwaukee, Lisa attended a thing on this, and the parent bringing the complaint got to bring in another parent too.
Parent had the,
Remember that group, remember you attended the thing on how to handle
Yeah.
it, and you said, wow, this is really interesting. The parent who's bringing the complaint gets to bring in another parent with them.
I suppose that they could do that.
Well, they could come in and speak to the group,
Right.
supporting
that
their.
parent wouldn't be on that.
You know, I was
That's
gonna
not
try
on the
to,
committee.
see, we were trying to be proactive by getting the volunteers when they register in this fall, saying, yes, I'm willing to serve on this committee. They don't know if there's gonna be a challenge or not, or what book or material would be challenged, or if they're even gonna serve. Then we put all the names in a hat and randomly select the parent. But we thought that was a fair way, because then you're not there because of your issue. Jeff says, I don't like this book, you know. And then you
It's
decide
not
to
gonna
do
be,
it.
it's not gonna be they just don't like this book, it's gonna be a really hairy issue.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be, yeah, right.
And you're gonna probably find 40–50% of the community don't like the book either. It's not gonna be,
Right.
it's not gonna be.
That's the book he's gonna pick, right? It's one of the,
It's gonna, yeah, they're gonna pick a book about,
We don't need to say what they're talking about.
Charles, is there a motion in a second?
Jeff, I
Yeah.
agree, but if you, I can't say about it, then you really want that in your school library.
Well, it's probably not going to be in our school.
Okay, are you sure?
I mean, I'm probably not. My opinion's going to be completely different than yours, because people can read whatever they want. It's not going to phase me too much.
Is that?
People can read whatever they want. I mean,
That's
I'm not
right,
gonna-
adults can, but they don't have about 14-year-old, 15-year-olds. So you as a parent have a right to say it.
and you do as a parent, because you can already sign off that you
Yeah.
want restrictions on what your child's bringing
We
home.
already have that.
How does a parent know what's there?
They get this at
They get the list
registration.
and they get the.
I mean, how does he know what's in the library?
There's a site they can
There's
go
a
to,
site here
and
they can
it's
go to.
probably 1,000 books site to
Right.
read
Yeah,
out.
they can't cover every book, I mean, it's impossible. We
Yeah.
got, look at the shelves, they're full. We got another library down there, it's got full shelves too, yeah, I mean, you can't go every book, I guess you gotta pay attention to your kids'
There's
backpack.
I think Bridget said she hasn't had a challenge in all the time she's been here.
Right,
And it's proactive though to set this up because it's going to come to
It's
us
gonna happen.
eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually there's going to be a challenge. So we have a motion and a second on the policy as it stands. Does anyone want to suggest
I would make an
an amendment?
I'd amend the motion to include a second parent.
I'll second that.
Anything else?
I would amend the amendment that the second parent is chosen off the list by the parent making the claim.
no, we're gonna pick it at random.
Yeah.
But then why can't you give the list of the parent who's making the, so let the parent who's making the charge select another parent off of
You're contradicting the motion.
Well,
it.
but,
Right here it says, for those who volunteer at registration.
We need to vote on the amendment.
Well, he's trying to make another, so we approve that amendment.
no, yeah, you got one amendment first.
So the amendment is add a second parent, volunteer parent, to the committee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so,
And then my amendment would be that the parent, that second parent, that second person, be chosen by the parent who's bringing the issue, and that parent can pick a parent off of that list that presented. They don't have to if they don't want to, but if there's a parent on the list who they like to have on that group, that's who that parent is.
So they'd be picking a parent that has the same belief that they.
I don't know, it's going to be a parent who's
Well,
volunteering.
they're not going to pick somebody to be on the committee that has an opinion different than theirs, would they?
And the problem with that is,
That if it's the same thing?
The difference is random is random,
Yes.
picking it one way or the other is favoring the deck one way or the other.
Yeah.
Where we're picking them at random, like we don't know who the parent's gonna be.
Right.
If someone volunteered, which we need a volunteer, we're gonna pick two out of the hat randomly, but if you say we'll let the person who's making the complaint pick, Well, then I'm picking the umpire that favors my strike zone.
It's a contradiction to the description of the members that are on the.
And the fact they will not, they're not in conflict because they're good friends and have lunch with the librarian, and I can say.
The amendment needs a second.
It's all a conflict. I mean, it's not conflict of interest.
I think picking 2 out of the hat at random is pretty good.
Yes.
And as student council president, I thought it was a pretty good student to pick and 2 teachers at different levels.
I think, I know where you're going, but I think if we, so we're doing random, so, but if we allow the parent with the objection to select someone, they'll look on the list and they may try to select someone that
Well, I mean, the parent doesn't
is,
get a list of see
you
who's
know,
on the
that
list.
has the same mindset as they, then they are stacking the deck. This is kind of a random, this is the professional.
So I'm saying the parent doesn't have a
Professionals.
list.
At this
Parent can't
point,
look
at
at the
this
list of
point,
people
Dick
that
is
are on
correct.
the
No one is
list.
second
Right.
jury.
Right.
Okay,
That's
so
all
I guess my bottom line is this,
confidential.
the deck is stacked except for the drawing of the anonymous person. You have, you've got school staff versus a parent. You don't think there's relationships with the school staff? You don't think they're biased? You don't think they're going to support? This is a big issue with people.
And you're saying then that our staff does not act on a professional basis?
I'm saying
You're saying that our staff acts on a prejudicial basis on their own beliefs and flaws?
I was just involved with an issue I can't go into at NWPC, a much higher level, where we brought in senior staff to involve in a decision, and it was as biased as you can see. And it was supposed to be all developed over, and it wasn't.
Well, I'm not hearing a second to your.
I'm not even,
Okay.
Madam Chairman.
So that amendment dies,
Right.
Yeah,
and we're back to
back to the original
the original
motion as
motion,
amended.
approving the policy with the amendment of adding a second volunteer, pull out of the hat parent.
Random parent, yes.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Administering Narcan.
Yes. I tried to get a hold of the nurse today. She wasn't here, but the secretary of the staff, I guess it's on the agenda for an in-service moment for the whole staff.
April 28th, we have an in-service. Our nurse is going to train any staff member who voluntarily wants to be able to administer Narcan. It's between 25 and 30 staff members who said they would. So that training's going to happen on the 28th, and she's going to work on having Narcan stationed at a couple various places amongst the building, kind of like our AED machines we have now for defibrillators.
Excellent.
Do we need to approve this? Did we approve this, or did we just approve having a committee to
We're
discuss
going
it?
to approve that committee to do it. That's what the recommendation is at this point.
Okay.
If you tell me tonight, no, don't do that, then we won't have the training. But that's the plan.
So
You want to go forward with that plan or not?
we would look for a motion to coincide with the plan that Mr. Lippy, Jerry just,
I'm going to say it's an operational issue.
Well, either the board approves it or not.
Move to approve the plan that's been presented for the administering of Narcan.
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I guess we're talking about referenda. That's bad. And I think Mr. Lippy has been updating us in his conversations with Kitchens and Jock most recently. I think
Yeah, I had a
it's in
meeting
our-
with
it's in our
Kitchens.
weekly memos,
I had
I
a
think.
meeting with Kitchens. It was a Friday.
He was not hopeful that,
He was not so hopeful. It was the 31st of March I met with him. He's not so hopeful that the governor's budget will fly and that the special ed rate that we're asking for won't come through, and he's not so sure about. He would not give us $1 on the per pupil because he didn't want to get our hopes up or anything, so it wasn't very. And then last Friday, John Ashley from WSB was at our PAC meeting, and he reiterated the same thing about the state budget. He's not so optimistic about per pupil increase or special ed aid increase, and he's really worried about the teacher shortage, was his largest issue, but, yeah.
That's interesting because the Texaco office is giving messages to the boards that there's going to be, they're going to get increases this year. So the Texaco we just put in the budget an increase in the state support. It'll be interesting to see who's right.
Soon you want to talk about the day at the Capitol?
That was interesting.
That was between last board meeting and this one,
I would
right?
like to share some thoughts from
Yeah.
the day at the Capitol. It was an excellent day. Chris Kuhl and Dan Rossmiller, our legislative liaisons from WASB, presented budget background information and then procedures and tips for the day. We heard from a legislative panel of Senator Strovel, Senator Larson, Representative Kitchens, and Representative Shelton. And it was pretty obvious along political lines how things went. Representative Shelton, who is a former school board member from the Green Bay District, was very concerned about vouchers. She gets it. She understands school funding and is very supportive and referred several times to the Blue Ribbon Report, and that really being an important recommendation for dealing with the school funding formula, which is not something that is favorable to school districts. We also heard from Brian Ponke, who was the state budget director, and he went over the budget in detail. And we had 110 meetings scheduled with legislators out of 132 possible total offices. There were 105 school districts represented out of 421. There was an indication that actually expenses are down for the state and more growth is projected for the future, so that was a positive. There was a lot of discussion about the importance of ongoing dialogue with our legislators. It's not a one and done. It isn't we talk to them once and that's it. And they stressed the importance of the in-person contact. And I have talked with both Representative Kitchens and Senator Jacques' staff on several occasions now, including at their listening sessions, which were held here. Dick was at the listening session with Representative Kitchens. It was interesting when I spoke about our financial needs at Senator Jacques' session. A lady commented to me afterwards, "I'm so glad you talked about school finance. That's what's important. More so than that Potawatomi Tower," which took up a great deal of time. So I thought that was good. In my discussion, and I was always with a team of people from other districts when we met with the senators and representatives, but they're all concerned about revenue limits, all concerned about mental health, many about EL, English learners. This whole referenda thing is of concern now, with 60% of the districts in the state having to go for operational referenda. And now we see that in this last election, the support for those is down. Not so much for the brick and mortar kinds of things, but for the operational, which is really critical. Lots of concern about special ed funding, and I did think that there was some support from the legislators in the area of special ed funding. I think they got it. I presented our district handouts to a number of people, not only the legislators, but also to John Ashley, who is a registered lobbyist, Chris Kuhl and Dan Rossmiller with government relations, and also to Ben Niehaus, who is the Director of Member Services for WASB. And after the session, Ben got back to me to say how useful he found the information that we provided, and that he was continuing to move that forward with various people that he was meeting with. I also brought a document.
Move our position forward?
Yes. I also brought a document from CISA 7 on youth apprenticeship, and of course that affects us. And Ben commented that that was very helpful to have that document, because he is working with the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, because they have a big stake in those kinds of things, because they're looking for employees. I also took a Fair Aid Coalition document, and there is some support from several legislators, including Representative Merceau, for the minimum aid for all districts like ours that don't receive any aid. I think Representative Kitchens is very willing to listen. I think he understands the struggles that we face. And I was also impressed with Senator Jacques' staff member that I met with. He seemed very willing to listen and to work with us. So, you know, I think we just have to keep pounding away on this. There have been already 3 of the 4 hearings, budget hearings. Unfortunately, there were none in our area. They were all way around the state. But as soon as those are finished now, then the Joint Finance Committee will begin their deliberations, and hopefully by mid-June we will have a budget. So lots of activity there, and we just have to keep people our nose to the grindstone. And
So what would we've got the day of the Capitol, what would your recommendation be for further communication between now and?
I think we have to monitor for a while to see what's happening, where joint finance goes, and any opportunity that we have for input with Senator Jacques and Representative Kitchens, or anyone else who will listen. And certainly work with WASB and what they're doing. And the Rural Schools Association is very much involved in this and contacting legislators. I know our executive director has been at several of the hearings. So I will continue to keep the board informed, because I get tons of stuff on my email on all of this, and I'll continue to bring it forward.
What's the WASB and the Public Associations? What are they hearing as the arguments against?
Against using the $7 billion surplus.
Or what are they arguing against increasing school funding?
Well, when they talk about the revenue, the available funds they have, they say if they use that $7 billion now, it's one-time money. It'll be just like ESSER money, and we'll have a financial cliff sometime in the future. They also say that there's a lot of hands reaching out for that money beyond just education, Department of Transportation, you name all the departments, they all want more, and there's not enough to go around for everyone who's asking it. The elderly, veterans, highway department, you name it, they all got their hands out and wanting, walking Bruce blanket, a chunk, I mean, it's everybody wants the money, So, and they said that if they give out the whole $7 billion, then it'll just be another financial cliff in the future. They're just postponing it.
And there are some who want to return the money to the taxpayers.
And there's a group up there as well.
And return it to the municipalities, the towns, counties, and so on.
But the real issue is the revenue formula. And not allowing districts to levy the budget that they need drives those districts to referendum.
Absolutely.
And with Joel Kitchens as chairman of the educational committee, right?
Yes.
Okay. Quite frankly, I think he needs to put on his man pants and present that as a real issue. I mean, you read about Green Bay School District closing down 12 schools, and some of that is related to operational referendums. You know, if the school districts can't, and this isn't something that the state is going to give, this is what the school district's going to levy against their constituents. So if we can't, you know, going back to 1993, when we were able to present a budget to the district constituents of what it takes to run a school, it was a whole different ballgame. And now, you know, the state legislature said, this is what you can levy, and that is it.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to watch the districts who failed their referendum this last couple weeks, like Southwestern, Acadia, Burlington, and watch how they do. Watch how Bristol does. And you watch how they go. And we got to make sure we don't follow suit with them, because it's going to be really bad. And those towns are going to have really hard times.
They're going to have to cut.
So help me understand just from an educational point of view. Prior to Act 10, because this all seems to happen, Act 10 seems to be the point of...
No.
1993.
What happened in 93?
1992 or 93.
What happened in
93, when the state, okay, it started with Tommy Thompson deciding that the state could fully fund primary public education in the state of Wisconsin.
Okay.
All right. They tried to enact it, and then what happened is they found out that the commitment in dollars was way more than they thought. So what the state did, and what the legislature then said was, we have to put controls on it.
That was 93.
What happened in 93 was when Tommy Thompson did that, he said, okay, this is going to be the revenue formula based off what you spent last year. Now, if you built a building the year before, had a major project, or you a large raise, then you got more in 94. If you were a low spending district in 93, you got a little bit, you didn't get as much as the
It's true
others.
with healthcare, if you spend more, you get more.
Right, and then but his plan was also only to be in place for 5 years and then come up with a different formula and figure it out. And since then, they've had 15 Blue Ribbon commissions, and they haven't been able to figure it out. So there's the haves and the have-nots, and so districts that weren't making it went to referendum to the public. We've been very fortunate here over the last 20 years of people supporting us, and now people are getting tired. We have the big inflation. I told you about the bus pricing going up and stuff, so now more people are going no, saying it's been too much, we've had enough, we can't do it. And these districts that failed this time are going to really suffer. They did put some restraints in referendum. You used to be able to run them multiple times a year. Now you only can do it during a regular election, which is every April and every November of even years. And so these ones who failed now in the spring of 2023 got to wait until the spring of 24. And unfortunately, that money won't come in until the 24-25 school year. So they're cooked for a while.
So let me just be the devil's advocate. Has the educational side of you type of people that run, have you ever all got together and agreed on what a new vision would look like? Which would not bankrupt the state. So that's okay. Is it possible, or is there too many?
I don't know if it's possible.
Is there too many interests?
Everyone all starts looking at, okay, you do something with the formula. First you look at is what's it do to my district?
That's right.
And then if you're a legislator, you say, what's it do to the districts that I'm representing? And then they say, well, wait a minute, I'm going to have this guy lose, so no, I can't do that. And so we stay status quo.
But there's, and I'm not saying this for negative, but does the industry, use an industry?
The formula is flawed.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That's right.
And there have been many, many attempts to try to change it, but
The educational world doesn't agree with it.
unsuccessfully.
There's no one agreement.
No, because the haves and have-nots, you can't hold up the ones that are the haves to catch the other ones up, because the ones that have the haves, they still have expenses too that are increasing. So they're saying, well, we've been used to this for 30 years, you can't cut us back, which is true.
Yeah, but on a local basis, though, the revenue formula dictates what our levy is going to be. Equalization aid is what we do not get. And if you were to do the Fair Aid Coalition, and I agree with the Fair Aid Coalition group, but that's where you start taking money out of that equalization aid and spreading it around. If Luxembourg-Casco School District gets $5 to $6 million in equalization aid, Sevastopol gets zero.
Yes.
But we're at a finite amount of money, so if there's a finite money set for education and we get more, that means someone else gets less. And so then Luxembourg Casco doesn't get $5 million, they get,
Yeah,
4.9, and then they're saying, we're losing, and Sevastopol,
But
you
you
guys
have to
are
put more in
property.
the pot, so nobody loses.
Right. And that's where they could do that 7 billion, but the legislators saying that 7 billion won't last forever.
We aren't gonna fix it at this table. What we can do is
I would just say-
understand what's happening to our district and communicate that.
Exactly, and I think so if we're gonna go out to the public in 30,
November
2034,
2024. November of 24.
then success, people will always vote for success. People always get money to success. So as long as you can continue to be a successful operation, you'll do fine. Now you have to communicate it. And I think as early as this fall, we need to begin putting together, not that's the board, but the school, and begin an organized, planned communication method to get the community to understand the jewel they've got here and how lucky they are, and that will result in the.
And I think we do a pretty good job.
And-
I mean,
You can never do
we had a
enough.
wonderful track meet last night. We had a great band concert on Monday. We were highlighting, I don't know how many Facebook posts you can put out, Stephen. And I think we get the word out pretty well. We had beer for the Fine Arts night. This place was crawling with 600, 700
You
people. That was
gotta keep doing it
fantastic.
more and more and more. Not just getting through the newspaper, through articles, splashes of how well the taxpayers' money, they're seeing that their money out there is really doing a great job here, and you can't do enough of it. That's all I guess.
I guess while we're talking about legislation too, I would just put this out there for future consideration. But there's a Republican bill that would let school boards allow staff with concealed carry licenses to have guns. I don't know where it's going, but it's out there and it's something to be mindful of in the future.
Now,
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
That's right.
okay, we have a bid for the audit services.
We received 2 bids. One's from CLA, which is our current auditor. They're 3-year bids. The other one's from Kerber Rose. They're very close to each other. It depends which year you're looking at, because one's lower the first year and higher by the 3rd year. It's within a few $100s. Carl and I would like to stay with CLA. We've had them, they're familiar with us, and we'd like to continue with them.
I move that we stay with Civil.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have Start College Now at the application list for fall of 2023.
I would move to approve the Start College Now and Early College Credit applications for fall of 2023.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we have the Heartland application proposal for
This is the
services.
This is a 5-year agreement. The other one just expired. Steve, you want to expand upon your technology?
Do you want me to go the quick version or the long version? I can
Start
talk a lot.
with it quick and then go long if they need it.
Okay, so we've been on a 5-year kind of refresh cycle for major hardware around here. Our current one is quite a bit lower than our last 5 because we were able to kind of push some things. We'd be replacing our phone system. We would be getting new phones. We've been our current phones are well over 10 years old at this point. We'd be updating our wireless. We moved a lot of our access points from the old building to this one. We bought a few new ones with the building project. We would then be replacing the old ones so that they're all the same. We would be on Wi-Fi 6, theoretical faster speeds, great upgrade. And then also, we'd be getting a new firewall. One of the reasons that we were able to save some money on this lease agreement is we used our E-rate funds to go out to bid and get a firewall, 1 year of licensing, and some battery backups for that so that we wouldn't need to use just district funding for it. There's still, you see the Palo Alto part, there's still a cost to it because when you go through E-rate, they'll only cover 1 year, but obviously we need 5 years worth of warranties and subscription services to keep that updated. Another way that we're saving some money this time around, we're not replacing our switches. We're running Cisco Catalyst 9300s. Over the past 5 years, there haven't been that many major upgrades to it, so instead we're just going to get like a 2 or 3 year service agreement on them and kind of leave it from there. Because our current lease is looking to be about $344,000. 5 years ago, before I started this, we signed off on a $450,000 one, and I believe the 5 years before that, it was closer to about $900,000, because we have a lot of catch-up to do around here.
That was with the old school too, that was a big problem.
Right, right. So, yeah. Any questions?
So your recommendation is to approve this proposal?
So
A motion to that effect?
are these upgrades going to be done over this 5-year period, or is it going to be done?
No, that's the best part about this. If this gets approved, we literally hit go, we order all the equipment, all of the equipment will be in by June or July. And then we're just paying it off over 5 years.
It's a 5-year lease.
Yes.
So we've got the $47,000 interest.
That's baked into it, though.
That's baked in the lid.
Yes.
I would move to approve the Heartland proposal as presented.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Has this been built into the budget process then?
Every year, what was it 90,000?
90,000.
So now it's going to be 78,000. So yeah, there's always a bill. Every year it's about 90,000, but now with this one it'll be 78 for the next 5 years. So it's a good thing for us.
Yeah.
I asked for student fundraising to be on the agenda because over the last several years, I've heard from different sources that teachers wish that there would not be, that students would not approach teachers on school grounds for fundraising because they get hit many times. I mean, our students seem to fundraise, but teachers and staff get hit many times, and my answer is, well, they say, no, I bought from somebody else, but that's hard for some people to do, you know, and they like kids, and sometimes it's always the same kids that race to get to the teachers. So, I also know I don't know if this still occurs, but there have been circumstances in the past where kids get rewards for selling the most, you sell the most pizzas and you're going to get sweatpants, and you sell the most pizzas and you're going to get something else, and that shouldn't be in fundraising. You're fundraising for your group. So my proposal would be that students not approach staff on the school grounds for fundraising, that sheets going on the bulletin board or in the teacher lounge, and if staff want to purchase, they can purchase.
I was thinking a company would deal with this non-solicitation policy.
So
Say that again?
I was thinking the company that would deal with our policy company must have in their drawers a non-solicitation policy, because that's a pretty common policy in
Yeah, I don't know.
companies, not to allow solicitation of any kind.
So I guess my question is, do you want the policy committee to look into it with Neola to see if we want to add that caveat to the fundraising policy?
what about staff soliciting staff?
That would be on one too.
Why would staff be soliciting?
Okay.
Well, if you're doing a fundraiser for your organization, you're saying to staff, hey, buy this. I don't have a problem. I have no problem with the kids. I think it's good for the kids to ask someone if they want to buy something rather than just sit around. And I have no problem. I always buy from the first kid that hits me, and I tell the rest, no, I already bought something. And I think it's good for our kids to get rejected too, because that's real life, you know. I mean, and I like.
So I said
the kids to go
I'd
up
bring
and
it
ask,
forward,
you
so
know.
I'm bringing it forward for discussion.
But I have no problem telling a kid no either. So.
That's if they come to our office.
Right. But I have no problem telling them, no, I bought from so-and-so, which isn't a lie. You know? I can't buy 17 Pringles, I know that, you know.
So does this come from staff?
I've heard from staff a few times with, I'm not a lot of staff, your staff.
Solicitation policies are not unusual, they're pretty common. Because it gets into a whole bunch of issues of where do you draw the line, and So if you just,
And remember, Jerry, these are fundraisers for school organizations, and we're the school and their kids. You know, they're not gonna say, oh, the kids aren't gonna say, oh, there's no solicitation, you know.
well, you're not in the building, they can still.
Well, we'll have to make them aware of it, yeah, we'll have to tell them, you know, but it's not like we have someone knock on the door and say, I'm selling Girl Scout cookies, it's our kids, you know, yeah.
We just sell World's Finest chocolate. I'm sure you can't get a.
So what have we done?
It sounds like there's not appetite to move forward on that, so we leave it as it is.
Why don't we just ask the company if they got a copy of it, it's okay to say.
Well, you're on the policy committee, you got it, Jerry. We'll do-
What's that?
Policy.
The solicitation?
You can ask you can ask Neil the next policy meeting. Then we have a first reading of the policy 5410, promotion, placement, and retention. With changes in the green.
Yeah, this is one that, at the policy committee I had to work on, so I worked out with the admin team, and we selected that the building principal would decide on either 4th grade to 5th grade promotion or 8th grade to 9th grade promotion, and we checked all 3 boxes for their sub-tests, their exams for proficiency, and then students' academic performance in art classes, and then teacher recommendation, have it built on those 3, and the decisions on the building principal.
I would move to approve the first reading of, let's see, the number here?
5410.
5410, promotion, placement, and retention.
Second.
I have a question, maybe I'm misreading this. On this retention, there's no box check. Is that, there's not supposed to be a box check?
No, because we got it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's covered above, okay. Any other
If you're not
questions?
promoted, then you're retained.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we have the proposal from the 5th graders for the Trees for Tomorrow trip in the fall of 23.
Move to approve the proposal for the student 5th grade Trees for Tomorrow trip.
No second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we have, how many students?
Yeah, I mean, that.
Okay, we have resignations. Look for a motion on the resignation of Amy Vanderhook as track coach.
Move to accept the resignation of Amy Vanderhook as an assistant track coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Sarah Morosky, resignation as the high school English reading intervention teacher.
Yeah, I'd like to say something about Sarah. You know, just want to thank her for her years of service here. She's passionate about Sevastopol students. She's a passionate reading teacher. Really appreciate that she went and got her dyslexia interventionist certification because it was a need that the district needed, and she worked really hard to do that. And you know, she will definitely be missed. I know it was a hard decision for her to make, but just want to thank her for her years that she was at Sevastopol.
You know what the board might be, doesn't know, her part-time job was as a principal for an online school, so she was doing that outside her workday here, so now she has the opportunity to do that full-time, so.
Really worked out for her.
There was a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Wait, didn't have a motion.
Oh, there was no motion.
No
Okay,
motion.
motion please.
Move to accept the resignation of Sarah Moraski.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Resignation of Rebecca Lugerman as high school special education teacher.
Yeah, I also have a few things to say about Rebecca. Tremendous loss to the district as well. Rebecca is our at-risk, high school at-risk and high school special education one of the teachers. She made a tremendous impact on our students, especially those students with emotional and mental health needs. I honestly have never worked with a person who was that patient and kind and generous to kids who moved at a pace that was just so different from some of our general education students. She helped those students find their voice, and it was exceptional to work with her. She's patient, she's kind, and she definitely taught me and the colleagues that she worked with so much about the impact of trauma and what that does to kids. So she'll be missed, and I thank her for all of her time with the students. I know the students will miss her too, but wish her the best. And she's moving on to, she lives in Green Bay. She's going to be closer to her parent, her mother, to help her as she gets older. So it's the right move for her as well. But both these women are exceptional educators, and they're going to be missed.
Harold, do we have a motion in a second?
No, not yet.
No?
I would move to approve the resignation of Rebecca Ludeman.
Okay.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resignation of Trent Larson, the choir and general music teacher.
I would move to approve the resignation of Trent Larson, choir and general music teacher.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we have two staff looking for use of personal days and unpaid time to accompany their students to destination imagination. This would be one of those where if it's granted, the letter goes in the file, this is your one time.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say here is their kids that qualify next year and the year after that. They're good, solid team members. So, yeah, we've done it where they go one time, but we've done it every year. So, I wouldn't be surprised if these kids qualify in the future. They're young, they're talented, they've done it before, but they're going to do it again. So, yeah, but that's what we've done in the past is we go once. Our DI teams are successful, so I expect to have the same issue. Yeah.
So we're not making a change to our current policy, right?
No, I'm just making you aware of that. I bet these kids qualify again, right?
So are you suggesting that we not put that caveat in, or
No,
expect,
I'd say be consistent,
or
just that they
expect that,
understand, yeah. Right.
that it might come forward and not put it in the future?
Right.
And I'll abstain.
But I mean,
Right,
we have had instances where people have asked twice or like.
Not yet, because we have, and globals has changed from Tennessee to Kansas City, and the times have changed and stuff. Now, the people who coach the teams that are staff members go as coaches. Right. But these are going strictly as parents, not as coaches or chaperones, right?
And those are handled in the same way.
Yeah, if our basketball team would make it to the state, we would send the basketball coaches. If a DI team makes it to globals, we send the coaches. These are going as parents, not as coaches, right?
But those are special requests we handle them like we always have.
Right.
So you're saying if you were a teacher and your kid was on the basketball team and they wanted to stay, would we approve unpaid time?
Well, if our basketball team makes this, they would probably shut down the school. Right? That's probably what it is.
That's the same, is that the same? I see.
Right. And there's little things like next week at the academic banquet, we make sure the 10 staff members who have a kid that's qualified gets there for the luncheon and the thing, and we do internal coverage. Shoot, we're sending 78 kids, so half the high school won't be here, so, so we do things like that. Well, I'm just letting you know that I bet these kids make it. I mean, there's no guarantee, but
So
get some talented
cross
kids.
that bridge.
That's right,
when we
I'm
get
just
to it
giving you a
next
heads up a year in
So they're going to
advance.
use unpaid time or personal days to do it.
Right, so I'm saying, go ahead, do it, approve it. Just know you might be back here again next year, and that'd be different than the other once-in-a-lifetime experiences.
I would move to approve the support staff request for unpaid time and use of personal days exception.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That would conclude our regular business for this evening, and I would take a motion to convene to executive session.
I make motion to adjourn the executive.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried at 8:44 PM.